The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it Thursdays here at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing okay. I hope you're safe. I hope you've been able to get things put back together with Mother Nature going gangster about 24 hours ago. And hope you're doing okay. We're thinking about you in Omaha. We're thinking about you in Lincoln. And, of course, where you hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Hope you're able to move forward and get things picked up and cleaned up. Just absolutely brutal. We got knocked off right around 5:15 last night, and it went from bad to worse as the storm made its way up and east on I-80. So we're thinking of all of you. We'll get to your comments in the stream. Can join the show, as always, Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe there. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. 489-1240, the number to dial up. And can email the show if you like, Chris at HailVarsity.com. Elijah, you live in a sweet old neighborhood. You got a bunch of trees in your neighborhood. Our house is in a newer area with minimal trees, and quite frankly, between three big dogs and my wife's green thumb, we don't have many trees that survive in our backyard. We have one that is continuing to grow. So far, so good. We're okay. We're okay, and our part got dodged, but a lot of our normal route to the station in Lincoln had trees that were some old vintage 50-year-old trees that were just smashed, and folks had some relatives that had tree issues, and you heard about stories in Omaha of roofs flying off and trampolines flying away, and you're just sorry for that to happen. But you guys doing all right? The Casa de Herbel with you and your roommates, things good on your end?
Yeah, Casa de Herbel is all right. This radio station is pretty freaking hot today. Our air has been knocked out, so
we're on generator still, I think.
Apparently not.
We were.
I think we're on the air.
Yes.
We just had our power knocked out yet again, so that's going to be fun for the stream. But we're still rocking live.
Yeah, which is good. So we'll get back on the stream. I just told you to like and subscribe on the stream.
I just got my hot buttons rebuilt, too. Yet again.
Elijah's going to turn his mic off and swear loudly at the clouds right now. So we will get back in the stream and online here in a moment. But if you're hearing us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network, keep tuned in. We're good to go. Loaded show for you. We'll check in with Brandon Vogel from Cow to Read. CowToRead.com is where you read and find and subscribe to Brandon Vogel and Aaron Sorensen. We'll check in there. We'll find time with Gary Barnett. We'll check in with Coach, get his take on things with freshman quarterbacks, the Nebraska program, as it's another day of camp for the Big Red. And then our sit down on Media Day with Husker rush end and hybrid supreme Jimari Butler. That is coming up around 5:40. Again, numbers to get in, 489-1240. So I think I'm back in the stream. Are you good or no?
No, the computer's still restarting. If you're back in the stream, we're not going to have it through your nice audio mic. It's going to be through the laptop audio for now, so bear with us on that if you are watching in this stream, but we'll have that back up shortly.
Yeah, A-Dub says, blame me. I jinxed everything. Possibly I did, but let's get our shout-outs going.
I think it's my fault, because I'm in here complaining about the fact that we don't have air today, and then everything gets worse immediately. So I think that's probably my fault, is the building wanting to remind me who's in charge.
It's the steam room today, right? No bracelets, though, Chuck Barkley. So, Mr. Erickson, this is 3 in a row, man, for Mr. Erickson. Hoping everyone's recovering from the storm. Sorry to all those that had damage. So, Mr. Erickson, thanks much for your shout out. The other Dave is in. Looking forward to the show. Fingers crossed that all IT issues have been fixed. I believe they're fixed, which is good. Other Dave, thanks for checking in. Arlo is in. Excuse me. Uncle Jimmy is here. Good to have you. A-Dub, Patrick is in. Moonbot says, howdy, nerds. Crazy Spider Adventure is also in. Good news. Didn't hear on any of the news. Hail Varsity folks taken by the Reaper. Thank you, Brent. We're still alive and well. The real Matthew is in. Jack is here. Good to have you in, Jack. Elijah's Little Feet is a new listener, new viewer, and Elijah's Little Feet is here for Elijah.
See, this was funny that one time, and
that
now it's become slightly concerning whenever there's new people constantly chiming in talking about my feet.
A weekend edition we thought was hilarious, is not the case. It has turned into a thing where apparently some Hail Varsity fans want to see Elijah's. Show him your feet. Show him your shoes.
No.
Show him your shoes. I protest. There are things I won't do for the show. Show him the Adidas. Yeah, that's for that. There's a little taste for you, Elijah's Little Feet. Black Hills Brennan.
They're size 12, thank you very much.
Black Hills Brennan is here. I trust everything's cleaned up in the stream, and we'll go off without a hitch. We had a hiccup. Cliff is in hangover hell. Cliff's been down in Wilbur. Check days. Good for you, Cliff. Weston is here. Sal, good to have you. Anonymous. And Anonymous is asking and talking about the Telewalk song. You'd think maybe the best song ever written by a Nebraska native would be an option, but rainy days and Mondays might not set the right tone. They've been the tone the last 10 years. Shane is here. Shane, thanks for checking in. Tuck is here. Patrick, Robert, and Trent. Trent, good to have you. Mr. Snitley. From the Boulder Peace Treaty, the generator must not be working. We're back now. We're good. Jack is here as well. KG, good to have you. We'll have more of your comments. 489-1240. So we'll check with Brandon Vogel. And Vogues' column today got me thinking, as it always does, when it comes to the topic of surprise, right? Surprise versus disappointment. We'll get into that further in about 10 minutes with Vogues. But, if you got to lean one way, and we're 31 days out, I'm going to lean towards a surprise. I'm going to lean towards a surprise season for Nebraska. We're still a few days away from making our predictions, going in ink versus pencil. The disappointment side, listen, I think there may be a moment or two that's disappointing this season, but overall, I mean, I'm buying stock with the team, the talent, and a quarterback that looks and dresses and has mannerisms like Mahomes, right? We'll get into the freshman quarterback ups and downs with Coach Barnett in an hour. But, yeah, this team is a stock-up team. This team's a team that's kind of coming in under the radar. They have a little window to do that. And just to put it out there, I think a surprise to me would be double-digit wins in Indy. It's not that I don't think Nebraska's talented. I just think the talent level is at a bit of a gap, comparatively speaking, to the Oregons and Ohio States and maybe even the Penn States. If you had this team going into a year 3, same coordinator, same defense, and a second year at quarterback, then I think I can talk myself into a playoff push, but I think it might be a bit too soon. That 8 number looks pretty good right now. And what I don't know about this football team that has plagued Nebraska, and they've had more of these than they'd like, the why loss is the way Vogues put it in his column. Nebraska always seems to have that one loss that you go, why did that happen? Now, there's been seasons where you've had more than the one. You've had multiple. Why did they lose this, and this? But there's been that hiccup game. And I honestly believe that there's a lot of chances on Nebraska's schedule to have a hiccup game. I truly believe that because I think the Big Ten is going to be pretty strong. I think Colorado is going to be a pain in the neck, honestly. Crew is checked in, and Crew has been working his fanny off on insurance claims. I believe that. So the KG is talking about Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend song.
The Pride of Lincoln Southeast.
Right. He's there, him and James Valentine. But I don't know that that's Tunnel Walk material. KG also says, unless Nebraska's talking about the opponent being their girlfriend. I don't know. You just don't like that, do you?
I'm going to let that one lie.
Oh, we have air conditioning working now. That's the
Speak for yourself.
Elijah's going to be 120 pounds by the time the show's done. Oregon gets too much love. Calling it now, Oregon will not have a really good season. Gabriel's a solid quarterback, not a great one. We'll see, KG.
The thing about Gabriel here, as we get to the phone lines here momentarily, is I think Dylan Gabriel fits hand in glove into what Dan Lanning likes to do on offense. I think that offense and the pieces he has around him could elevate him beyond what we've already seen. And that requires a little bit of prediction, but
the pieces are great.
It comes down to the pieces that you have around him and the fit, and I think you have the pieces around him. I think you have a good fit. Will that translate? It doesn't always, but I have reason to believe it will. That's why I think Oregon gets a lot of love.
Let's hear from the phone lines, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Who's with us?
Sartez.
Artez Craig, what's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, Big Red, baby. Get closer.
It is. How are you doing? You didn't get hit by any of these storms, did you, with your 18-wheeler?
No, I'm good out there. Well, I only go to like a 2-hour drive from Davenport, but
Okay.
we got some hail, but not what you guys got. Man.
Tell us about it.
How bad was it? How bad was it that way?
It was no good. It was hurricane force winds and monsoon level rain, and then it turned into something much uglier as it got closer and into Omaha. We got the appetizer and a little bit of the main course, and then it strengthened.
Did they call it a derecho, or was it an actual tornado? What was it?
I think a tornado did touch down, or you had tornadic activity up by Bennington. In that region, we were teasing the derecho term yesterday morning, but it got ugly. So it wasn't good, and it intensified, and there we go. But maybe the Nebraska defense will represent yesterday's storm. How you?
There you go.
Do you have a prediction?
As far as the season?
Yeah. How you feeling?
Last year I love Harburg. He did great. I just think last year we were basically a quarterback away from going 9-3 last year. I thought. I'm just being honest. I mean, and I don't know how the freshman's going to play. Raiola, obviously, he's probably going to be the starter most likely. But our defense, man, it's going to be lights out. Now that they got another year under their belts, running at 3-3-5.
Ortez, we got you still. Yeah, no, I think they'll be pretty good. I think that defense will be ready to kill, and it kind of comes down to quarterback play, and I think they've got a good one with some help around him.
Hey, did anybody catch up with that Oregon Duck that was walking around campus yesterday or whatever? Did anybody catch up with that guy?
Schmidty was.
I got a selfie with the Oregon Duck.
Oh, no. Please tell me you didn't, because that would go viral. You can't do that. You cannot do that, brother.
I did. No, he was just kind of sneaking up behind. I was like, oh, let's get a picture of Scrooge McDuck.
Oh my God, that's funny stuff right there, brother. That's funny stuff.
We think it's Uncle Phil in disguise. We think it's Phil Knight walking around.
The two thoughts were either Phil Knight or Scott Frost.
No, it wasn't Scott.
Yeah.
But
and that huge duck they got in Chicago was amazing. That was funny stuff too. So.
Yeah, they're gonna do that to every road Big Ten opponent, and they're gonna need to buy a lot of duct tape or sealant, because I think some fan bases may start popping that thing.
So give me some early predictions. What do you guys think this year? How many wins?
Oh, we haven't gone...
Without locking in and taking away what's coming in a couple of weeks from us, I'll say nothing between 6 wins and 9 wins would surprise me.
I think
that's the range that would not surprise me.
I just want a bowl game, to be honest with you. Yeah. I mean, that extra practice is huge. I just want a bowl game. I don't care where we go, whatever, but just get that extra practice to see who.
No, I think they'll be bowl bound. I think they got a really good head football coach, and I think they've got some pretty good talent. Artez, you give us a shout back as we get closer to kickoff, all right?
Sounds good. Hey, you guys take care. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. There he is,
Yep.
Artez Craig with us. And, of course, Artez's brother should be in the NFL Hall of Fame, Roger Craig. We're waiting that day along with many Nebraska fans.
And to expand on his last question there, it's fair to say, as we kind of preview fall camp, this season, it's a foregone conclusion that there will be a step. The question is just how big is that step? Because there's too much talent addition for there to not be a step, at least offensively. The question is just how big is that step, and how does the team, I guess, manage expectations? And that is the wrong bet.
You're right.
This new hot button board that I've had to quickly put together here during this first segment has already screwed me once.
Not technical issues, but at least we'll be on the air for your full 2 hours.
Don't jinx that.
We already hiccuped once. Brandon Vogel with us, counterread, counterread.com. We'll dive into the topic of surprise. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
I think we got a tip, Elijah, in the stream.
A tip for regarding what?
Yeah.
Oh, like a cash tip.
Yeah, a cash tip. The Sexy Grinch, formerly known as Crew, gives us a 99-cent super sticker. There's a lot of Saturday shows that warn. Do we ever cash that money in for beer money to send our favorite listeners Cornhead Lager?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know.
Did you deposit it?
I don't know what happened to that money.
We sent it to Brandon Vogel from counterread, counterread.com.
Really fast. This is a great story with formerly Crew, now Sexy Grinch. His Halloween costume last year.
No, I can only imagine.
When is the Grinch Who Stole Christmas? Dyed his entire body green, and he stayed green for like 3 days. Couldn't get it washed off. Great story.
Vogue, do you ever go green in honor of the Grinch? How we doing?
Well, no, I have not tried to stay away from the body paint at my age.
About as a youth, as a youthful sports fan, do you ever go in orange and blue, find your way to a Chicago bar or Bears game?
No, I've actually never been to Soldier Field. Well, I've been to Soldier Field, but not for a game. So, yeah, even then, actually, as a preschooler, I was the kid that didn't like to finger paint because it got me messy. I'm a neat and tidy guy.
So some of those Mother's and Father's Day gifts were just a handshake.
They were very minimalist.
I love it.
A handshake and a hug.
Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter is where you find him. Counterread.com. Dude, awesome column. Common Fan Podcast, also killer. You guys are just pleasure to listen to. You asked the question, what result would surprise you as a Nebraska fan? And let's dive into this, man. That contrast between surprise and disappointment. I am not drinking Roulade. I'm not drinking Kool-Aid. We've covered these teams, all of us, for a lot of years. But I'm just putting the pen to paper. I like what I see. I like what I hear. And I like what they've recruited. So surprise to me would be Indy. But it wouldn't knock me dead if they do it. And maybe that's too optimistic. I just don't know what it's going to take in this Big Ten to get to Indy, because there's the Ohio State and Oregon Mountain.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, earlier in the off season, I likened it to the Kentucky Derby. You know, that's unlike any horse race in that it has 20 horses every year, and I mean, it's like a NASCAR mixed with Demolition Derby. I kind of expect an 18-team Big Ten race without divisions to be like that. I mean, we know that Ohio State and Oregon appear to be like justifiable favorites, a step ahead of even like the next teams down, Penn State, Michigan. So it's going to be difficult, and you're going to have situations. It'll be really interesting. A team like Iowa has a pretty good schedule. Has won 10 games, a lot recently, and like how are you gonna? What are the tiebreakers that are going to be? I mean, I'm sure we could go find them, but like if you got Ohio State sitting there or Oregon at 11-1, say, and then Iowa's in the tie for second or something like that, like we don't know. Like it's totally kind of new territory for a college league to be this big. So what would it take for Nebraska to get there? You probably got to get to 10, I think, to be in the hunt.
And as we kind of talked about last second, Brandon, I want to get your take on this. Anything between 6 wins and 9 wins would not surprise me. I think if you get to double digits, that surprised me. If you fall short of a bowl game, that would surprise me. Does that seem like a fair estimation for this Husker football season, that anywhere between 6 and 9 would be not only considered fair, but expected?
Yeah, I mean, that's between 6 and 9 is probably where they will fall 2/3 of the time, like based on history. And I mentioned this, I didn't write about it in today's column. But I've looked at that, like looked at preseason win totals and where teams land. And like the fat part of the bell curve there is teams end up within a game and a half of their win totals usually. So it's 6. That's 7.5. That's either 6 or 9 on the high or the low end. So that's reasonable. And I was playing with words a little bit in that story, and I kind of separated off surprise as being the positive end, disappointment being the low end. So yeah, falling short of a bowl game, that would definitely fall into the negative surprise or the disappointing category for me, for sure.
Brandon Vogel's with us from Counter Read, counterread.com, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. So we're talking about that surprise factor. Interested here, why do you think Matt Rule will coach and this team will be consistent enough to avoid that Y loss? And that's a great title for the misstep that Nebraska football has had. And the ultimate Y loss for me was that 2011 loss to Northwestern, 28-25. The only time Burkhead fumbled ever, playing on one shoulder. And Nebraska just whacked Michigan State with Kirk Cousins. And they overlooked a 3-6 football team that ended up going bowling. So Fitzy got his dudes ready. But Nebraska always has that hiccup, pee the bed ball game when they were good enough that kept them below 10 or 11 wins. Iowa State in 2009. You look at the Minnesota game in 2013. I mean, they've had it. And I think the Big Ten is prone to have someone bite you every season. And you've seen it for years before it even expanded.
Yeah, you have. I mean, it's during Nebraska's time in the Big Ten, I think it's kind of defined things for, at least from a Nebraska perspective, maybe for the teams that have been in the league the whole time, they're like, yeah, this is just how it is. Like, but for Nebraska, I mean, this was 2011 when it started. They've been here for a while. Came from the Big 8, which in Nebraska was, a different level of program at that point, but it was Nebraska and Oklahoma, and that was kind of it. And then you were in the Big 12 North, and you didn't have a lot of those surprise games. And here in the Big 10, they've happened a lot to Nebraska. So I think that's a real key piece of this. If we're talking about like pie in the sky, let's say this 2024 season starts off like as well as it could for Nebraska, because the schedule's backloaded based on what we think the team's now. Say you start out 4-0, 5-0, something like that. Then it becomes, that kind of challenge of Rutgers is going to be good. People expect Rutgers to be good. Nebraska should be favored in that game. Can you avoid that? The Indiana game, Nebraska might be a slight road favorite in that one. We'll see what happens with Indiana. But I think that's going to be a tough game. So that's what good teams do, is they avoid those slip ups. And I think, both Leany's teams were good, and it's what kept them from being, the level beyond that, from being something more than just 9 wins every year.
Is avoiding slip ups going to be the name of the game in order to reach a college football playoff moving forward? Simply put, like I know Nebraska's schedule is a bit of a unique one this year in terms of ease, but you look at it, if Nebraska avoids the embarrassing, surprising losses, you're looking at 9 wins this year, potentially 10. Like that's what you're looking at whenever I look at this schedule right now. Is that what the name of the game is going to be moving forward in college football, avoiding slip-ups?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it less so than it used to be. Now you can get away with at least one. Used to be, if you wanted to guarantee you'd be in the playoff, win them all. And before playoff, even more so.
I guess how I'm looking at it is, should Ohio State lose a game to Oregon, who is expected to compete with them this year? I wouldn't call it a slip up, but you'd still expect them to be in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you absolutely would. The question with Ohio State would then be, is if they have a game like they had at Purdue, whatever year that was, which almost never happens to Ohio State. But if it did, so you lost to what would probably be the best team in the Big Ten at that point, Oregon, and then you had a bizarre loss. Like you're still getting in a 12-team playoff at 10-2 in the Big Ten, I think. But you might not be playing for the conference championship game, and you're going to be missing out on a first round bye for sure. Which, with the expectations that Ohio State has, I think getting into the 4 conference champions, the teams that get a bye, is kind of the expectation.
How much can Rule maximize that hunter role with this team versus the hunted?
It's a good question. And I've been compiling stuff for something I'm going to write a little bit later in August when we get closer to kickoff. But in 2015, Notre Dame went to Temple. And Temple had already beaten Penn State in the first game that year, which was big. It ended a 30-year losing streak in that series to Pennsylvania teams. And then I don't know why yet. I haven't looked it up, why Notre Dame was playing at Temple. Both teams are ranked, Notre Dame in the top 10. And Temple came within a minute and a half of beating them. And Nebraska is a bit unique in that the history is always going to be there. No matter how rough the past decade has been, when you show Nebraska and Michigan are playing tonight, even if Nebraska's 2-6 at that point, it's their name brands. So I think it's harder to have that nobody believes in us, we are the hunter mentality. We'll see if Rule can do it, though. We saw, from what they shared last year, he's a pretty motivational guy. So I think if they could have it early on, maybe you got a chance to carry that through the season.
Vogues, we're up against it. I need 2 minutes, and I'll keep you short, I promise. On the other side, I need the Vogues take on the Mahomes or Dillon comparison. I need some thoughts on that, some camp thoughts to a storyline you're watching beyond quarterback. Tiger Shark Diver says, I'm a cornhead. Love it. It's still just steamy as all get out in your part of the studio.
Is it different over there?
It felt like it briefly, but now no. So we may have to break in case of emergency one of those cornhead loggers.
To put it, as Searle said, it's hotter than Satan's gooch in here today.
It might be. Well termed. You just love saying that. Find us on Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Can like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube. We'll continue with Brandon Vogel. And podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. More with Vogues with Counter Reed. Hail Varsity powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmidty.
Schmidty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
A little bit of overtime with Brandon Vogel. Counterread, counterread.com, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Dream Like a Champion, his book with John Cook. So the social media frenzy that was Dylan Raiola and the Patrick Mahomes comps. Good thing or oh no, Vogues?
And the mic is muted.
Well, the resemblance is certainly there. Can't deny that. Although seeing a bunch of those photos side by side, like Dylan Raiola is a big dude.
He's bigger. I mean, he looks bigger now than he did in spring. But he's going to lose like 40 pounds, I should say, the next 3 days with this heat and humidity.
Right. So I haven't looked up the roster listings for both, but it might be a little bit bigger than Mahomes. But now, I mean, you got that haircut, you wear those sunglasses. It's a little bit inevitable now. The real question, the real key will be if anybody's comparing the two come November. That would be a very good development. That would be surprising for Nebraska.
Well, now that this has kind of made the rounds on Twitter, I expect there's going to be some comparisons after the UTEP game because Husker fans love setting a really high bar and then becoming disappointed by the end of the year. Maybe they won't be disappointed, but I have a feeling we're going to see some of that on Twitter after the UTEP game.
Could. I mean, maybe we can get Patrick Mahomes up to Lincoln for a game.
Not sure when the Chiefs have a bye, but it's not that far. Should I be proud, or do you think Junior gets singled out tonight? He is at Morgan Wallen. He and his girlfriend drove down separately. Mama is down there with Aunt Ashley and little niece Evie. So they're at Morgan Wallen at Arrowhead. They've checked into Arrowhead. But Junior comes to borrow my razor, and he's wearing jeans. He's borrowed somebody's black cowboy boots. He's got his pro bass fish hat backwards, not his white buck, no country for old men hat. He doesn't have one of those. But he has his Budweiser t-shirt. I mean, he looks like he's ready for a country show, but the kid's never spent a second on a farm. Will he be outed today?
Well, it sounds like 90% of country music fans.
I was going to say, I think no, he'll probably be in the majority at the show. So I think he'll be okay. Live like you want to live, Junior. That's what I say.
Yeah, pretty funny. Vogues, what's coming up on Count or Read? How can folks subscribe? And what are you and Aaron working on?
Yeah, plenty to come still from fall camp. There's some pretty big questions out there, I think, as you mentioned, outside of quarterback. Probably dive into some of those next week and see what we can see on Saturday at the practice. And football season's here, so it's a great time to get signed up. Like, you can go read about what would be a surprising result for me for Nebraska in 2024. I think it's going to be a pretty fun season. It's going to be a fun time to join the community we're building there. You can just head to counterread.com and follow some of the prompts from there.
Vogues, appreciate it. We'll dive into some storylines next week with you. We'll talk Saturday morning on the weekend edition. Appreciate you.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
There he is, Brandon Vogel with us, counterread.com. The topic of Michael Terry, Elijah, and we have some prognostication, some thoughts from our friend Tim Verghese from Rivals and Inside Nebraska. We talked to him Monday. This was before Terry's visit, Terry's tweet that went out this morning, very, very complimentary of what Nebraska has become. And let's revisit what Tim had to say real quick here on the bidding war aspect.
I think an interesting note on this recruitment, because I caught up with some sources over the weekend as he made those visits to Texas and Oregon. He went to Texas Thursday, Friday, was in Oregon Saturday, Sunday, and is now at Nebraska. These are the final three. It's going to come down to these three for him. I think an interesting note here is NIL was not a factor in this recruitment for a long, long time. And and early on, Nebraska was in this pretty early and built a really good relationship and, made him feel at home in Lincoln. And, he had really good relationships with the coaching staffs. He really liked the role Nebraska had for him. And Nebraska checked pretty much a lot of boxes. And there was a time where it was like, if he's going out of state, I feel like it's going to be Nebraska. And what's kind of happened over the last month or so, as he's kind of started to close in on a decision, they knew they were getting a certain amount of money from programs, but they didn't realize the market that Terry, who on some sites is considered the number one athlete in the country and a 5-star. We have him right on the edge of that 5-star territory, kind of in that high 4-star range. And I think he's going to get a bump in our next rankings. But he's a guy that didn't realize the market he had. His family didn't realize the market he had. And so now they're going to schools and they're seeing the money that's being offered. And this is sort of turning into a bit of a bidding war situation.
Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska, the here and now of Michael Terry. Elijah, you look at the social media post, not only thank you, but On3's national recruiting analyst Steve Wildfong did a quick rundown and catch up with Terry, and there was a lot of love, man. I mean, beyond the, hey, Nebraska's awesome, rules great, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, he highlighted not only the facilities, but just he talked about how they practice, and it really kind of connected with him.
If you want to get into the second cut, I think we barely have time for it here if we want to get into the advantages Nebraska has.
Let's hear from Tim those advantages.
Nebraska's holding steady from the NIL standpoint there, but Nebraska's not the type of program that's going to get into a bidding war. Like they've not shown to be that type of program in the past in recruitments. That's not how they choose to win recruitments. They choose to win off relationships. And so I think if this ultimately does solely become a bidding war at the end, I think Nebraska's going to end up losing. But what's benefiting Nebraska here is they have the best combination of everything so far. They have the role that he wants to play. They have the best relationships. They have a competitive NIL offer, and they've made him feel at home. And they're getting the last visit. Like, I think those combination of factors, if Nebraska's to win here, it's going to be based off of a combination of factors, not just NIL. My worry here, and what I'd be wary of down the stretch here, because I expect a decision soon, is what I'd be worried of is, unfortunately, this does kind of feel like it's turning into solely like a bidding war type situation.
We'll see where it goes.
And did you notice in one of those pictures that was posted up by Michael Terry on his Twitter, he did include a picture with Kyle Fisher, who was recently promoted the Director of Athlete Revenue for 1890 Nebraska. Should be noted that if he's in the picture. Tim talked about Nebraska might not win a bidding war, but they have a competitive NIL offer. Interesting to see him in one of the pictures there in terms of kind of backing up what Tim's saying here. Nebraska having a competitive and worthwhile NIL offer on the table.
So we'll know this about Nebraska. They're going to be in position. Can you outspend Texas? Can you outspend Oregon? Probably not. But can you do all those things that endear yourself to a guy? The one thing in this Wildfong interview that really sticks out to me, above all, is, just paraphrasing here, that they treat it like pro ball at Nebraska. So that's made an impression. We'll wind down hour one at Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail.
Wow. Let's pull up Junior live on StreamYard, Hail Varsity YouTube. So you're in Arrowhead. You made it.
What?
I said you made it to Arrowhead. You made it all the way down.
Yes, we did.
All right. So who's opening for Morgan Wallen?
Yep.
I don't think he can hear a damn thing.
He can't. Who is? Tell him to turn down Rock and Roll from Led Zeppelin. Who's opening for Morgan? Who's opening for Morgan?
There's a break in it. Who's all opening tonight?
Lainey Wilson.
Ooh,
okay.
Ella Langley.
All right.
And Nate Smith.
Pretty good openers.
That's nice. So where did you get these seats?
Ticketmaster, unfortunately.
Yeah. What happened to the other seats you purchased?
I plead the fifth.
Poor Junior's a victim of scammage. But so did you get a speeding ticket on the way down?
No, just almost.
Just almost?
You got pulled over?
No, I was following Ashley. She was doing like 90.
Your sister-in-law.
And right,
your
right in front of a cop. But we were good.
See, that's the beauty of you. You stay in a pack whenever you're speeding because they can't pull over everybody.
No, but that doesn't.
That's my strategy.
But Aunt Ashley was going hammer down, huh? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, she got a little bit of road rage.
That's pretty good. You have medical beacon of Lincoln tased by police outside of Arrowhead.
Radio star's son taken into custody as well.
That's fun. Junior is with us on StreamYard. He made it to Arrowhead. He's at Morgan Wallen. Okay, have Liliana hold your phone. I need a picture of both of your wrists, please.
The fakes haven't came in yet.
I need to see your wrists, my son.
Well, we have our Morgan, like our light band.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, so he's confirming that he is not.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. Father of the Year.
Well, I need you to take your boots off and shake them.
What?
I need you to take your boots off and shake them.
No, we saved that for the parking lot.
Okay. Oh, no.
Father of the Year, Chris Schmidt.
Carson Schmidt, Jr. from the Morgan Wallen Show. You guys have a good time. Be safe, all right?
All right.
Love you. See you, bud.
Love you, bye.
There he is. That's funny.
We saved those for the parking lot.
Oh.
That's too good.
You know, I think 10 years ago we went down to a Chiefs-Seattle preseason game, and we got a steak and a beer tonight.
I remember this.
That'll be outstanding. But it was 1,000 degrees. The station gave us free seats because we are a Chiefs affiliate. And instead of everyone being happy we got to go see Seattle and Kansas City, this is pre-Mahomes, it was, gee, Dad, thanks for putting us as close to humanly possible as the sun. My Lord. So, long and short, I've not hustled for Chiefs tickets. Coach Barnett coming up, hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, and say hi to the Hall of Fame coach. It's Gary Barnett. Coach, we've dealt with some major storm damage. Monster straight line wind cell came through with torrential rainfall. Lincoln and Omaha yesterday, parts of Nebraska. You guys are dealing with wildfires. Let's just go to Mexico. How's that sound?
Get me somewhere close to water, just in case. So,
yes.
Yeah, we wish we'd had that rain going through here, but it's been hot, unusually hot. It's been 98, 99 every day, and then we had a fire breakout just west of Loveland, and now we've got 4 fires going on here in Colorado. So it's a real test for firefighters right now.
Man, it's nuts. You're not a stranger to it when it comes to just the region you've lived in. Are you guys okay? Have you had to evacuate at all?
No, we haven't. We're pretty far away, but they've evacuated quite a bit of the town of Lyons, which is in Boulder County. Mm-hmm. And then in the west side of Loveland, especially in the foothills, those people have had to evacuate. I don't know the one down south in Denver, but it's just not good, and there's just no help in the forecast as far as rain goes. So these guys are just going to have to figure out a way.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Well, Nebraska got moved into the dorms, Coach, earlier this week, and they are day 2 at camp. How are the Buffs doing? Have you guys started camp yet?
Yeah, we have. We've had 2 days of camp, and today's day 3, and it's there's a lot of guys, a lot of new guys for me anyway to try to recognize. But it's camp. Early camp is always like a bunch of dogs chasing cars. Everybody's got a lot of energy, and they're all flying around and doing all this sort of stuff. They don't all know what they're doing yet, but. Things are underway, and these guys are eager to play, I think, but a lot of work to be done. And without 2-a-days, you never create the same kind of grind, which creates a lot of teams and can break some teams. But there's not the grind that you used to have. Now, these guys are probably used to it because they haven't had 2-a-days maybe in their career, maybe 1 year of it. But for a coach, you got to create a different way to create the grind because the grind's important.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about how you created the grind. And I know we've talked about it in past years, but it really does make your football team. And is it fair to say that grind also helps make a team player-led?
Yeah, it can, but it can also, if you don't have players that are leaders, then it exposes that. You find out what you're going to have to do as a coach as your season unfolds, because if you come through the grind of preseason camp and it is player led, then you can do a lot more planning, you can do a lot more teaching, you can do a lot more actual football stuff. But if you as a coach have to lead these guys, then that takes away from the time you have of getting doing game plans and doing some planning that you can't do because you're too busy trying to lead your football team and having your coaches lead it. So it exposes it as well, and I think that's one of the things that has happened now is, maybe especially at Colorado last year, is that because there isn't the grind, you don't really know what you have coming out of camp like you would have 10 years ago. So you got to figure out, you just figure out a different way to find it out. But it's always good to have a player-led team if you can make that happen.
Gary Barnett's with us. Few minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, when it comes to identifying those leaders, is that something you do as early as the recruiting process, or is that part of all right, we got him on campus, he's a freshman, and he really took to some guys we thought were good leaders, that senior freshman, big brother, little brother thing? How did you go about identifying guys you think can either step into the leadership roles or be really good leaders?
Well, we did it two ways. One, at Northwestern, we recruited a lot of former captains, and that were all captains on their team. So that gives you a little bit of a head start on leadership. But, at Colorado, we didn't do that so much. But you got to start off early with them, Chris. You can't just identify leaders. Leaders show up. And so, we started teaching them as freshmen what leadership looked like. And the thing about being a leader is you've had to have been a good follower in order to become a leader. So you've got to know what a follower looks like. And then you've got to show them what good leadership is and what poor leadership is. So, we broke our group into the 4 classes, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, and we met with them, each class separately, with 2 or 3 different coaches assigned to each class. And then we actually had a class teaching them about what leadership looked like and what followership was, so that when they became seniors or juniors, they didn't all of a sudden say, okay, you're the leader, now what are you going to do? You've already sort of identified them through the process. They identify themselves, and then they're already prepared to take that role. So the big brother, little brother thing is good for, and that's sort of what that symbolizes, is that a good big brother will show the younger player just what followership looks like, what good leadership looks like, and but we left it more up to the coaches than the players.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, I know camp is that grind. We talked a little bit about the part of transition from off season to camping time. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the freshman quarterback aspect, and I know Shedeur wasn't a freshman last year, was he? Sophomore, he's a transfer.
No, he was actually a junior last year.
Okay, so the Buffs went in with a guy with a ton of experience, and Shedeur is incredible, super talent. Nebraska may be turning to a true freshman in Dylan Raiola, and I'm interested that fine line between, we talked about this yesterday, having a phenom that can hit the ground running, right? He's well advanced beyond your normal freshman from a talent and a maturity standpoint, and also that learning curve. I want to ask you about dealing with a freshman quarterback that you think's talented and may have some really good support. As you look at Nebraska's situation, what's your view from where you're at?
Well, I can't quite tell. I saw the little article yesterday on comparing Dylan to Patrick Mahomes. But, the freshman quarterback's got to be like a sponge. He's got to absorb everything. And, the players know. The players do know. And they know really whether a guy's ready and whether they're going to follow him right away as a freshman. Because the first thing that the guys will take somebody who's got all these credentials and all these this hype, and they want to test him. They really do. They want to know, is he really this good? And so between the locker room, training table, the stuff that goes on when you're not practicing and at practice, that combination, players know whether this is a guy they're going to follow or not. So it's probably too early to totally see that, but Coach Rule will discover that as he goes along, and they'll talk to him. The seniors will talk to him. So, the guys he trusts as a coach, that Coach Rule trusts, they'll tell him, and he'll ask him. My guess, I would always ask. I wanted to know, what they're thinking about this guy, and so your older guys will tell you.
I want to ask you about three freshmen. One you coached, Darian Hagan. What was special about him? You have folks in the coaching fraternity that were around Trevor Lawrence, and then you were right there in the recruiting process with Tommy Frazier. Those are three freshmen that did major things, and I'm asking why. Why do you think it worked out so well? Those are about the only three, along with Jamel Holloway, I can think of that killed it as true freshmen.
Well, Hagan didn't kill as a true freshman. Hagan, he wasn't sure. Hagan was in a completely different environment than what he's ever been used to.
Okay.
He had to get used to being away from inner city L.A. and being in a completely different environment. And he didn't play much as a freshman, and he just wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. When he got there, he wasn't sure he could be the quarterback because Sal Inessi was there. Mm-hmm. And so he actually before Sal got sick, Darian came to me and said, I want to be a wingback. I don't want to be a quarterback. And it was too much pressure for him. But when Sal got sick, then I called him, and it was during the spring break. I said, all right, Sal's sick. You have this team needs you to take over and become the guy you're supposed to become. And he did. He just stepped right up. But he struggled. And they're not as mature as you think they are. They're still 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old guys, and they're away from home, probably for the first time. So it just depends on how you navigate that. And Hagan really wasn't ready to navigate it. But you watch Tommy, and Tommy was probably a little more ready than Darian when he showed up because his environment was a little different where he grew up. Mm-hmm. Jamel Holloway was a phenom, but he also was the only guy there. And so he went right in, took over, and was a great player. But Darian had a good player in front of him when he got in here in Salinas.
Did you think Trevor Lawrence was going to work? They were preseason number 1. They had a ton of talent around him. That seems to be the fit coach, where you get a freshman in with a bunch of highly talented guys, and you don't ask him to do too much, but he can make a play or two for you.
Yeah, well, Trevor was ready to play. He was more mature than a lot of guys, and at least that's what it looked like to me from the outside. And he was surrounded by a lot of good players. So he was ready to go. Higgs was not necessarily surrounded by a lot of good players. We got good players around him eventually, but it helps a really young, good quarterback to be surrounded by really good players, because they make up for his mistakes in a lot of ways. So, but Trevor, I thought Trevor was and he was walking into a situation that was from just a life experience situation. It wasn't too tough for him. It was tough for Darian.
Gary Barnett with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. We'll have a little bit more with Coach Barnett up against a tough break, but good perspective there on a team turning to a young quarterback. Pretty exciting tomorrow with the media session. We'll hear from Coach Donnie. We'll hear from Coach Butler on the offense and defensive side, but we're going to also hear from all 3 quarterbacks tomorrow, as they have gotten going with Husker Fall Camp. So how are the first few days gone? Of course, that fundraiser practice going on Saturday night. More with Coach Barnett on the way. We'll also sit down with Jimari Butler, a black shirt guy that's ready to explode and have a fantastic season. I want to remind you about getting buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries. Only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Podcast is there and available for you on your time. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. We love the feedback. Like and subscribe to Hail Varsity YouTube. And yes, the Hail Varsity Twitter, give that a follow as well at HVarsity Radio. Hail Varsity Yearbook. Log on HurrdatSports.com and get that picked up. Really good preview and look-see as to Nebraska and the rest of the Big Ten. No, Elijah, you've done some scouting already, dude, on Nebraska's opponents.
Yes, I have.
It's all in your back pocket.
I'm locked in. You got to be locked in this time of year. I'm hoping to get to the grander Big Ten. Currently, I'm just kind of scouting through Nebraska's opponents. If you're wondering, inside scoop here, I think Ohio State's going to be really good.
Nice.
Yes. I know it's a bold take to have this early in fall camp, not really knowing what the team's going to look like, but I think that Ohio State team has got a lot of talent.
Well, the topic of surprise was covered in Hour 1. Good stuff from Brandon Vogel, more with Coach Barnett. So I asked Junior to do that quick video hit from the Morgan Wallen show. Our old friend Todd I don't know if he was being complimentary or degrading, but we got some emails from Todd about Junior and my similarities on the air. Todd, thank you for listening. Junior's trying to shake me down for a set of golf clubs for doing a live hit in Arrowhead. This kid's a runaway train with his talent fee request. More Coach Barnett on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Couple more minutes. Coach, what do you think of kind of that Mahomes orbit when you look at Dylan and what he's been able to do, his background, his upbringing, his family, and then the training, right? The training that he's had with people around the Mahomes camp that is going to make you a really good ball player, or at least give you the tools to do so, the training. How do you believe that can help translate?
Well, first of all, the quarterback coaches I talked to around the country said the worst thing that can happen to them is Patrick Mahomes, because he's kids are throwing no-look passes, and they're changing the angle on their arms and throwing side arms, and they're throwing crazy passes, which Mahomes gets away with, but he's a freak. And so, I think the best thing that you can say is that he has been trained, for a long time now. Dylan has. He's been in a quarterback training situation. Mahomes hadn't. He just sort of learned it playing baseball. I mean, he learned throwing the football by playing shortstop and throwing that quick throw to second base or over to first, or stepping aside and throwing it, underhand to almost underhanded sidearm to the third baseman. That's the way he sort of plays football, is the way he played baseball. And these other guys that have been coached by quarterback coaches, gurus, they've got much better training than Patrick probably did. Patrick Mahomes was existing with his just raw talent, I think.
Gary Barnett with us. Coach, we'll wrap it up with this. Heather Dedich, saw her at Big Ten Media Days, really talented reporter with ESPN, put out a list of 30 teams that can make the postseason for this first 12-team college football playoff. Would it surprise you if the Buffs or the Huskers made a postseason run?
Probably. It would surprise me. I think that there's 12 other teams that are better than both teams, and I think that both teams would have to get hot and win the right games to do it. But I would be a little surprised at this point. Now, I've only been to practice twice, 2 days, so I don't. After 16 days, I can tell you what I think. But right now, I can't tell you because they're not a team yet. There's 50 new guys showing up to play with 50 older guys, and so I got to see how they mold together before I could tell you that. But I would say Nebraska maybe would have a better chance at that, but just because they're maybe a little bit further along, but I don't know. I think it's close for both two teams. There's too many other good teams in front of them that they have to upset in order to get there.
I said last thought. This is really the last thought, and I'll let you go see Cosmo, or Kramer, sorry, your pup. I know he's been chirping in the background. I'm interested, Coach, on Nebraska's defense. As you look at them, as nice as they were a year ago, what is that next step for this defense? And the topic's been takeaways and quarterback pressures, but it's one thing to talk about. How do you do it? Really, 9 starters back with a lot of role guys still returning for Tony White.
Well, to me, takeaways and turnovers and stops are it's a mind thing. Really is. You've got to have a personality. You've got to create a personality where you're trying to make those things happen. And you achieve what you emphasize. And if you emphasize that and guys buy in, then they'll find ways to get turnovers and rush the passer. But I thought that was a solid defense last year. And with guys coming back and the experience and then whatever you do to add to it as well, they're in a position. I mean, they literally put that team in a position to beat Colorado last year. Was the defensive side, not the offensive side. So, and they did that with a lot of other teams as well. And they've got a little bit of that mentality already brewing, I think. And so I think you just keep emphasizing is what you do, and having that many guys back.
It's Coach Gary Barnett. Coach, thanks for the time. We'll check in again down the road.
All right, Chris. Great being with you.
Good to spend time with Coach, and good perspective on the defense, the offense, Mahomes, the freshman quarterback side of things, and always love talking ball with Barney on Thursdays. 489-1240, open phones here till about 5:40. And Jimari Butler, our sit-down with the talented Husker, part of that mindset, right? That you're looking to see the Big Red defense, the Black Shirts take that next step. Elijah, let's circle back to Michael Terry III. We heard earlier in the show some thoughts from Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska on the visit, on the running. We saw the tweet earlier today, a 5-star uber-talented wideout from San Antonio region, Nebraska, Oregon, Texas, and the impression Nebraska made, a different impression with the football facility being finished, a different impression with him actually getting to see practice with the team. And right now, that bidding war that could be a reality with Oregon and Texas versus the fit and the camaraderie / feel he has towards Nebraska. I mean, really impressed with Garrett McGuire, loves Coach Rule. Good on Nebraska. Now, they are tired of finishing second or third in these races. You have the opportunity to get a high-level prospect that you showcased just last weekend with Sanders, the offensive tackle. You had an incredible linebacker from Kansas City that just chose Bama because, hey, it's Bama and you're going to win and go to the playoff. But right now, Terry's, I don't know. How do you see this, man, as Nebraska continues to make themselves known, make themselves felt?
I still think, kind of as Tim said, he'd have to take a slightly discounted rate if he wants to come to Nebraska. And that is not the be-all, end-all, I think, in a lot of recruitments. But like
family discount.
Texas and Oregon.
The old Patriot discount.
If it's a true bidding war in that the highest bidder will win, I don't think Nebraska's going to win this. I'm with Tim in that one. I think Oregon with the Phil Knight money, Texas with just the boatloads of resources they have down there, a great collective as well. I think those two schools can come in and outbid Nebraska. Where Nebraska has to win this is, as Tim said, the relationship, the role, and the path to the field. And I think that last one is something that Tim didn't necessarily talk about that I think should be talked about here. From what we're hearing, it sounds like Nebraska, and part of their pitch to Michael Terry III is, we have a specific role in the offense, similar to what Matt Rule said the other day. I think maybe it was Satterfield. It was Satterfield talking about Carter Nelson. Now, Carter Nelson's going to have his own role in the offense this year. We want to bring his skill set to light. We want to get him on the field any way possible, and the best way we see that happening is by giving him a specific Carter Nelson pass catcher position. We're going to have specific formations for him. We're going to have specific ways to get him on the field, so we're not having to diminish or hide his role as a blocker, because he's not college ready for that yet, but he's college ready, we think, as a pass catcher, so we're going to get him on the field. Nebraska has a plan in place like that for Michael Terry III as well, where they've talked about having their own position for him, similar to what Deebo Samuel does with the 49ers, where, hey...
Positionless, just line him up and let him wear you out with a mismatch.
If we're handing you the ball out of the backfield, we're going to do that. If you're running routes out of the backfield, we're going to have you do that. We're going to have you run routes from the outside. You're going to have you run routes from the slot. We're going to have you run routes damn near everywhere. Like that's what you want to have Michael Terry. And I think that's part of the selling point here, and one of the things that he's going to be considering over the next couple of days is Nebraska has shown themselves to be able to get guys on the field early. It's early in this Rule tenure. Rule's done that also at Baylor, also at Temple, and they have a plan in place for how they want to do that, giving him his own position. I think that's going to be a huge selling point. If Nebraska can be competitive in NIL, that role and that path to the field, I think, is going to loom large, along with the relationships that come along with it. I'm not saying Nebraska's going to win this recruitment. I think Nebraska's in the thick of it, though. And the question to me is it going to be truly a highest bidder situation, or is it going to be one of those bidding wars where he's willing to take a slightly discounted rate because Nebraska offers this and this and this, the package deal, if you will?
The points you just made with Nebraska and their ability to just... And it's not that Texas or Oregon doesn't have this. They absolutely do. They have really elite coaching. They have high-level recruiting. They also have crowded rooms. They've got a bunch of Michael Terrys on their roster in Austin. They've got a bunch of Michael Terrys in that wide receiver room that our old boy Phil Steele ranks as the number one receiving core in the country. So how do you be different if you're Nebraska and not sell a bill of goods just to get the yes? Well, show it, and you have a chance to show it with another 5-star in Carter Nelson. And I like the fact that, listen, we're going to ask you to do a lot of things. They're going to probably expect a guy to be able to block on the perimeter, do your job for your teammates. It's not just about you, and I'm not saying that's the mindset or mentality, but why make him eat his vegetables, so to speak, first if the attitude is right, and this is how a guy as explosive as you are can come in and help the team. I mean, they really, truly will get him ready to use everywhere, offense, defense, out of the backfield. And the sincerity part is very real. And I think that is something that Troy Dannon touched on today with the Big Red Breakfast, with how Rhule's not just a really good ball coach, but he's a really good communicator. It's a good fundraiser, pretty well-rounded. And Nebraska's going to be in a lot of races. The other part of this, too, this thing isn't going to be announced August 17th like Sanders. You've got the rest of this season to show some proof and headway if you're Nebraska. So does Texas, so does Oregon. But you got a really late visit here on his own dime in a different scenario. The showcase, the presentation was pretty impressive.
You got the last of the three, which... Is that the be-all, end-all? No. Is that important?
Oh,
yes.
It's absolutely important.
It's important to get the last look, the last say, the last argument, because you can, as an athlete...
The last word, brother.
As an athlete or as a coach, you can go say, hey, these other schools said this. This is what we got at Nebraska. This is how we counter that point. It's big to have the last visit. I am taking that into account here. The thing you got to overcome, NIL, and then also wins on the field.
Take care of that the first half of the season.
But what does it say to you that Nebraska's in on 2 separate 5-stars, a high 4-star in Mosey? They got some good talent in last year as well as a 5-star in Raiola without the wins. If you can get...
You start getting wins.
If you start getting wins, it's you have your foot in the door on 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great to land a couple. But if the program trajectory is what you think it is, as a Husker fan, you can't sit back and say, this isn't going to be the last 5-star that Nebraska has in camp.
You got to turn it into substance. Mm-hmm. You got to turn it into substance on the field. You got to win. You got to win some of those what the hell games that you lost in past years. You got to go make a dent and an impression too against the Ohio States.
And to underscore the Rhule way, it's the 3 and the 4 stars that give you a chance at landing the 5 stars.
Nice. We'll hear from Jimari Butler next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager, continues. Jimari Butler with us here. And Jimari, pretty awesome feature, man, on Chasing 3.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your ride, man.
So it's a 2018 Daytona 392.
Is that the dream car, or was that a car that you kind of just found and caught your eye?
It was the dream car for a minute, and I finally had the chance to get it, so I was like, why not?
Okay. How many miles?
It got probably like 18,000 on it. It's still kind of new.
Yeah. We talk about the Mac Black?
Yeah. Coach White, what do you think of that?
I tell you what, that's the car that sticks out. You drive through the parking lot, you be like, who drives that? And that's Jimari. Like, okay, I got you. It's nice.
A painful memory or great memory of learning how to drive when you turned 16?
I think it was more painful than anything, because my first time driving the car, it was my mom's BMW, and I was probably 14, so it went bad. That was a bad experience for my first time.
All right. Was it stressful? Did you screw up?
Nah, it was stressful, but you know how moms be. You could press the gas a little bit, and it's just making it seem like you just did the most. So yeah, it was kind of stressful.
I learned on an 87 Mustang convertible, 5-speed, candy apple red. It was sold when I turned 16 by my folks.
Oh, man. Was it stick shift?
Yeah, and they didn't like that.
Oh, yeah. I personally, I drive my car in manual or automatic, but you can feel the difference in manual for sure. It's a major difference. So I be in and out of either or.
So you mentioned, and Coach White mentioned the Matt Black. What player on defense most represents your vehicle?
Me? Black is just like an intimidating color to me, especially when, you go out, you see a team that got on all black uniforms. So I was like, you know what? I want people to know it's me. So I went and got my car matte black for that reason.
Jimari Butler's with us here, a few minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. So a thought from you on this upcoming season is, flip to camp mode. We'll get back to car talk in a minute. Got to talk a little football.
Yeah.
How does it feel with this unit, this line unit, your role? How excited are you?
I'm very excited, because as a unit, we try to establish what we want to be like up front in day one. And I mean, you kind of seen that last year. So I kind of looked at last year like as it was a stepping stool because I know we can be greater than what we already were.
How does Coach White challenge you? How does he get the best out of you?
I mean, really, he come in here. You just seen him. He always fired up. And whenever he fired up, I know what type of day it's going to be. And, you know, he holds us to a high standard and, you know, stopping the run. And as far as, like, just pass rushing, because if we can do it with 3, when we send 5, we know we going to do it. So, I mean, just him challenging us day in and day out and us stepping up to the plate.
From a technique standpoint, Coach Terrence, the line played really well last year. What step, what level can you get to now with a second year with Coach Knighton and your mates?
I mean, we know what he expects. But as far as us, it was just like fixing the little things. And, you know, he critiques those small things. And that could be the difference between you getting a sack or not getting a sack. So, you know, as far as just keep taking in what he says and keep trying to fix those little things.
Technique-wise, though, what are you working on? I mean, because there's pass rush moves, there's different types of rush. What are you great at or really confident in? Mm-hmm. And what are you working on so you have more of a repertoire?
I'm really working more on mine. So for me, it was always like bending the edge because winning on the move was never the issue. I mean, I can win on the move, but it's just that point where you're in between the quarterback and the offensive lineman where he can give you a little bump and that could like throw you off. So it was really just bending the edge even more than I already have been able to.
So it's that literal half step away from getting hands on a quarterback because of a bump.
Yep, the literal half step. That's been my focus this whole offseason.
Jimari Butler's with us a couple of minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. On the offense, how excited for you or are you for this offense and maybe what they can become?
I mean, I'm very excited because I got to see, you know, a sparkle of it in the spring, and I see what they can be, and I seen the plays that those guys make on that side of the ball. So I'm really excited for them this year.
What did they show you this spring?
Wide receivers, boys getting after it. They catching the craziest passes, probably the craziest I've seen since I've been here. So I'm just ready to see what that group can do because they're very young, but they also have a lot of experience.
Talented kids or group of guys, and Jimari, you look at that receiver room, and then you bring in a couple of old vets, some of the graybeards that, man, they've produced at high level of college football themselves. How does that help mesh the room?
I mean, really, you know, when you have vets in the room, like Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nair, they've been there before. They know how the game operates and they know the speed that it goes at. So them communicating with young guys like Ja'Cory, I mean, they could just get him on the right track because, you know, they produced at the highest level of football. And, I mean, that's going to be big for those young guys.
Jimari Butler's with us. Jimari, you grew up in SEC country. Alabama, your home state. You've been in Lincoln a number of years. So what sticks out to you, spending as much time as you have, about the Big Ten? I'm not asking you what's better or what's worse, but what sticks out about the Big Ten, what sticks out about the SEC as you look at both leagues that are projected to have both a number of playoff teams?
I mean, really, it don't get no better than SEC or Big Ten. You know, it's the best football played in the nation. I mean, it's just big boy smash mouth football. There's no way around it. Because you look at the SEC or the Big Ten, it's a lot of similarities with, like, the O-line. They're huge guys. And then you turn around and look at the defensive end. You got all these athletic freaks on defense with edge rushers and linebackers. So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of hand-in-hand. It's just whichever one you like more.
Jimari, going to ask you about the quarterback. We just talked a little bit about that half step. What have the quarterbacks shown you this summer?
I mean, really, they took a huge step, and, you know, they're a great group of guys. You know, I got a bond with all of them. But, I mean, just talking to them and how they see an edge rusher, because they kind of talk to me about, like, what they look for when they going to step up or when they going to scrimmage. Or when they going to scramble, I'm sorry. But using that to my advantage, it kind of helped me in the spring because I can time that. Like, I can kind of bait him to roll out, or I can bait him to step up, and then I know how I'm going to, like, react to it.
Jimari, as a vocal leader, tell me your comfort level moving into this senior season for you. How comfortable are you kind of teaching and leading, being that big brother to some of these younger guys? Because you got a talented young defensive line room.
Yeah, I mean, as a group, we kind of hold ourselves to that standard. I can say anything, and everybody's going to listen. So, I mean, just keeping them on the right track, keeping them locked in, because I know fall camp can get kind of groggy once you're in the middle of it. And, just keeping their head on, really. Not even just on the field, off the field also.
You've earned that right. Does it feel good to be heard?
Yeah, it definitely does. Being here the past 3-4 years, I wasn't heard. So now that seeing it starting to take place, it's a confidence booster.
Jimari, have a great senior season. Thanks for a few minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good to spend a few minutes. Jimari Butler on Hail Varsity Radio. Had a chance to sit down with him earlier this week, and also with Nash, some polar bear we'll have to break out for you. As Butler's one of those guys, man, that Nebraska fans excited to see, and he had a fantastic season a year ago under Coach White. Big things in store for the Black Shirts. We'll wind down a Thursday steak and a beer bet. Coming up, some NFL tonight. It's Hail Varsity, and we're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Jimari Butler, Coach Barnett this hour. Big thanks to Brandon Vogel, counter read in hour 1. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Back with you tomorrow on Friday. We'll spend some time with Ben Butenbach, of course, former Husker. He's going to join us in studio, tell us a little bit about the fundraiser for Husker baseball on the golf course. Tomorrow, Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman also with us. And yes, Clausburn, we'll have to check Claus's schedule. But we're hoping for a Friday forecast with Claus. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Please check out the podcast, like and subscribe, tell a buddy. And the feedback, always appreciated, good, bad, or ugly. Tell us what you think. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe there. And Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Give that a follow at HVarsity Radio. Check out Elijah at Herbal Essence at Schmidt_radio. Where do we stand, good sir, on the steak and a beer? Are we all square? I think we're all square.
The Mariners did, in fact, win on Tuesday, meaning I took down that steak and a beer bet on Tuesday. The final score, 10-6. So not only did they win, they also covered that 1.5
the run line.
Okay. So that is a win for me. I don't know where that puts us. I honestly don't know where that puts us in terms of overall standings.
We will push. We will double or nothing. Texans, Bears, can't wait for it.
Yeah, super excited for it.
No, I think, listen, the Texans are one of those.
I'll watch it for like maybe a drive or two, depending on how long the starters stay in.
You want to see Stroud and you want to see Williams. Once they go grab some Gatorade, you're out. And listen, we try not to judge on this show. Moneyline minus 145 for the Texans, plus 125 for Danny Burke's Bears. He's at Wrigley tonight.
Preseason is fun because it's a crapshoot.
It is. Minus 2.5. That means 17-14 ball game with the over-under at 33.5. So I'll let you pick who you want, but I'm going to go watch this thing tonight. I think the Texans were a bit of a surprise a year ago. That's been the theme today with the Nebraska topic and what's a surprise to you with Vogues' column. But in all honesty, the Texans should be one of those 10, 11 win teams this year. Defensive-minded coach. Stroud looked better than he's ever looked. They go get the running back. Help me out here, from Cincinnati, the old Oklahoma running
Mixon?
back. Yeah, Joe Mixon to hand off to. They go get the kid from Buffalo, Diggs. I need some sort of memory assistance right now. But you add that around a young guy with a defense that's pretty fearsome.
You still have Tank Dell.
Mm-hmm.
All that's a beautiful thing. The thing about preseason football is none of that matters during preseason football. The question is, who's better, the Texans' fourth stringers or the Bears' fourth stringers? Which guys who aren't going to make the roster, there might be a handful sprinkled in that do, but which guys that don't make the roster are better than the other guys?
How long do you
that
play
don't make the roster?
Caleb tonight? It's his first NFL rodeo.
Probably a couple drives.
Yeah.
He's probably in there longer than Stroud. Stroud probably gets 1, maybe 2 if drive 1 doesn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams, I doubt he gets the full first quarter. Maybe he does, but somewhere in that probably 3-ish drives range is where I'd put him at, depending on how long that takes. With all that,
you are so fearful of injury tonight.
I'm taking Bears plus 2.5.
Okay, I'll take the Texans.
Okay, I was really hoping the stake in a beer bet would be about this dude in the Olympic boxing that's fighting all the women.
Can't do it.
I would put down the house on him, her.
I'll drive. I'll get you to Ameristar. All right. You're so bad. Back tomorrow at 4. Elijah going out on a limb. Ohio State's good. Bet the dude. Talk tomorrow at 4. Thanks with Hail Varsity.